All right. Few of the people that I talked to have asked me, like, what's the most important thing when you're looking at a deal? And I wanted to go over that with you guys. Now, I'm actually walking you through a deal. This deal is already traded. It was on our list. We went after this deal. We talked to the brokers about this deal, but it did trade. They pulled it. But I want to go over what and why I did that. Why this deal made sense to me at the time. We didn't get the deal. Like I said, I'm always transparent. I can show you this one. It was on our list. So the number one thing I'm looking for, and you should too, when you're thinking about investing in a deal, is the deal. This is the number one, and I'll star that thing when you're thinking about investing in a deal. Like, period. There's a bunch of other stuff that goes along with it, but if the deal doesn't make sense, you don't like the deal itself, do not invest money in the deal, right? Because it should be something that, one, you love it, right? As a matter of fact, I rarely do this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on a second. And I'm going to show you a deal. And I just kind of walk this deal with you guys. Cool. So sure you guys can see that thing. Now, looking at this deal, as you guys can see, I just want you to see it is this whole property is the property. This is the property itself. It's called the ALX in San Diego, downtown San Diego. This is the property right here. This is it, man. That thing is beautiful, bro. That thing is beautiful, man. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter who you are. That is the deal. All right, so I'm going to go over some details. I just wanted to show you when I say I'm looking at a deal, when we're looking at a deal, this is the type of asset quality that we're looking at. This is an institutional quality asset. Can't be replaced. Can't buy it again, build it again, do it again, period. It'll cost too much. But here we go. I'm going to do this real fast. Where are we? Stop sharing my screen. Pull out of that. Good. All right. I think I'm back in this thing. Let me just make sure. There we go. Good. Reason why I wanted to show you guys, I'm gonna go over some details about that deal. Now, bear with me on this, and you just tell me whether this makes sense. That deal was 313 units, right? It's a downtown SD. Location is irreplaceable, like I said. Can't buy it again, build it again, fix it again. It was built in 2018 by an institution by I want to say it was a USB. Yeah, USB or UBS. USB. It was built by UBS and Trumbull Crowe. So this was a new property built by an institution and an institutional builder. These are the top players in the world, right? These guys are on the top 50 multifamily apartment owners in the United States right off the bat. So we have 313 units built in 2018, downtown San Diego, premier location next to the harbor down there, next to Petco Park. Like everything you can think of is already there. Right. The locate, like I said, it's irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. The asset can't do it again. As a matter of fact, it costs roughly about $700,000 to replace that thing. That's the replacement cost on this property. And this thing, so you guys know, because it's public record, this thing traded for 137 million. When we talked to the brokers, we talked to them at 122 million. I think that's where we were in the conversation, which is the offer that we kind of did. So 137 million dollars. Why does that matter? Because think about it like this: did I mention this thing was 97% occupied at the time, right? And it still probably is, and it's going to always be occupied. 97% occupied. So we got 313 units built 2018, downtown San Diego, irreplaceable asset, irreplaceable location. Can't buy it again, build it again, do it again if you wanted to. It will cost you $700,000 a door to do it. It's full, 97% occupied on 313 units in a location like that. Totally sick. Traded for 137 million. We were a little less than that, but they pulled it. They didn't sell it. They waited, and then they came back. So how do you make sense of that? Let's just do it from that capacity. Now, we thought this deal was going to make 5%, and we would double our money at the edge, period. Like I said, usually when we're looking at a deal, it's 7 to 10 years. Now, on that deal, that's a legacy deal. That's a generational deal. If we would have got a deal like that for our fund, me and the investors would have been in that deal for our lifetime. We would have just spooled that deal out, man. But play this game with me. Let's say, for example, we'll just use that number, right? So let's say 137 million. And I'm going to round some of these numbers out. So you understand what I'm thinking. The very first thing that I want you to get though, the deal matter. Because how many of you guys watching this would put money in that deal, right? If you just be honest with yourself, if you knew you guys can get access to that deal, right? Hey man, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, $1 million, $5 million, whatever you got, dump it in that deal. We're gonna make money on that deal. Like, how many of you guys know based on that deal and everything I said about it, you would do it? Like, you're real with yourself, right? Not an institution, not a family office, not JP Morgan Chase or another banker getting into it. You guys, which is rarely ever done, because the group that bought that, it's a fund that bought that. All of their partners are pension funds, pensions, state pension fund, the pension funders, family offices, and who else? Sovereign funds, endowments for like colleges and stuff like universities, institutional. Very different. The regular person is not getting access to that. We were chasing that deal, offering it to the everyday people like yourself. So, anyways, so let's say we had to put down about 40% of this deal, and I'll run it so you guys get it. So 40%, let's just say it's 55 million. We would all come together, bunch of us, 500 people put in 550 people put in 100 grand each. Whatever the breakdown of that is. 55 people put in $1 million, whatever. This is where we were. So we would have, think about it like this. We would have been able to buy that deal and control it for only 55 million because the lender would have came up with the rest because they did, right? So 55 million, we'd make 5% on our money. Here's how I make sense of the deal. That deal. Love the deal. Now let's make sense of the money, right? So in that situation, let's say that deal would have paid out 5% a year on the average. That's what we'd have been looking for cash on cash. And let's say we're going to be in the deal for 10 years. Even though I said we'd be in it forever, let's just do 10 years because we got to do 10-year runs, right? So right off the bat, we would be looking at, what is that, 27, 27, 27.5 if I'm not mistaken. Let's just go 50. 27.5 is what we would have been. 27.5 over a 10-year hold period. Let's just use that number for that position. We would have made 50% of our money back in that deal if that deal would have kicked out 5%, which I think that it would have. Right? So 50, we would put down 55 million. We got 50% of our money back over a 10-year hold. We made $27 million. And during that time, you guys saw that property. You guys think that property, the rents are going to go up in that property over 10 years. Absolutely, man. At least 5%. As a matter of fact, I know that to be true. So 5% on an increase. Let's say we only did it for 5 years. 5 years instead of 10. So we're cutting the 10 years back. We didn't raise rents every year for 10 years. We only did it for 5 out of the 10 years, let's say on a worst case scenario. Now we're at, let's say, 13.75. Check my math later. 13.75. So 27.5, that's where we are. This is what we made on 5 years. That's the increased income. That's increased income on that. So we made that over a 5-year period. So we made 27 plus 13, right? So we're already doing good. If I simplify that, we're at 41,250. This is what we made. We almost made the majority of our money back by just sitting and waiting over that 10-year hold on that beautiful property while it continues to go up in value. And here's the thing about that. The goal would be for us to later come back to market. Let's say we came back to market. We know we had 55 million in there right off the bat. We would need to make sure that we double that. So if we were to sell, we know we need to come back in for about $110 million. And I know that'll happen. Because let's say, for example, that same property that got bought for 137, we use that. Plus, do I think that thing will sell for another 55 million over the top for $192 million for that property? Absolutely. Because let me see, that's 313 units. That's 613,000 per door. And what did I say it costs? For replacement costs. So even our new sales price at $55 million over the purchase price of 137, right, which would be like what, 192, is still below the replacement cost of 700,000. So I know it gets there. Worst case scenario, we'd be looking at exit at 700,000 a door instead of 613. But that's how that deal will walk. So not only will we have made our 55 million plus 55 million gives us 110, we would have made, what is that? That's 151. 250. We would have made 150. Our 55 million would have turned into 151 million 250. That deal's a screaming deal. That deal would have been a great deal for anybody to get involved in that deal, especially if I'd hit my number. I'm sure my number would have worked if I'd have circled back at it. I didn't hear about it. That's the biggest problem when you find a great deal, is the brokers ignore you after, right? That deal dropped. Those guys go on to do something else. They're not going to pick up the phone and call, hey, guys, you were in the running. Let's do it again. They're going to call the first person that they think is going to pull the trigger. And then, unfortunately, when they moved on, I moved on too, and I was chasing other deals. But when people ask me, like, what are you looking at when you look at a deal? That's what I'm looking at. The number one thing that you're going to look at first is the deal. Next is the debt, right? Right now it's not the best debt conditions, but that deal got debt. You could have taken that deal. I 100%. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, life insurance company, which is probably who funded it, or the debt market, Wall Street, anybody would have funded that deal on the debt side. Guaranteed that's what happened. Guaranteed that's what happened. Or that group bought it all cash because they had the capital to do it. I think they have $39 billion worth of assets under management under that specific group. But anyways, point is this. The deal is the most important thing. Next is going to be the debt. After that, it's the equity. Like, how are we going to make the money here? How much money do we need? Because you don't know how much equity you're going to need, how many partners you're going to need, or anything like that until you know what the debt's going to be. So for us, we're always like, okay, cool, let's just go 40%. Anybody will lend 60% on the deal like that. As a matter of fact, they're happy to do that. So we know, like, hey, look, all we need was 55 million. That's an easy thing to do. Is there $55 million on the planet? Yes. Do people themselves have that? Whether it's an IRA, a bank account, Fidelity, Schwab, Merrill Lynch. Anyway, absolutely. So it wasn't an impossible deal, but number one thing, you got to get the deal. So when people ask me, what am I looking at? Number one, you got to love the deal. I loved that deal. You're not always going to get every deal. They're probably going to keep that deal for a long time. But for those who are asking, that's what we're looking at. What do we love the deal? Tell me about your deal. Then tell me how we're going to make money. And if the way we're going to make money makes sense, and I made a video about it earlier, the stability versus risk. Where was the risk there? We have to stay in it longer. We got to hold that property. Why? There's not a lot of properties like it. Who's the buyer? Well, naturally, it's going to be the person who bought it, this last group, and a bunch of other people who were probably players on that deal. But it's not going to be a mom and pop. It's not going to be guys like me all the time. The opportunity that we're doing with Bell Capital is not being done in this marketplace at all. I have yet to meet a person that's like, dude, we are taking everyday people like you, like, a plumber, electrician, a doctor, a lawyer, a chiropractor, somebody who's running the business, and we're going after institutional quality assets like that are owned by billion-dollar companies. They're not owned by people, right? Nobody else is doing that. We're doing that. That's why I did that, because I wanted to disrupt the way people invest in real estate. And I want to do it in this market with you. So I hope that helps so you can really get a better understanding. So the question was this. What are you looking for? What's the most important thing? Number one, the deal. And I showed you the deal. I showed you how I look at a deal. And I showed you how I think that deal is going to work out and how we would make money on a deal like that when we all come together as investors. All right. So I hope that helps. And if you have questions, leave them in the comment. Love to share it. I love to answer questions. I'm there for you. And you tell me, what's the biggest thing that you took away or you got from this thing? I know the biggest thing is always going to be the deal, but what is it about the deals, especially if you're looking at investing with a guy like me who's a syndicator or a fund manager? Like, when you're thinking about investing, what is it about that deal that you would love to invest in? If you had money, would you have dumped money in that deal and be like, dude, I'll wait for 10 years. I would rather have my money in that deal than sitting in the bank or in a retirement account earning me nothing? Like, leave that in a comment. Would you have invested in that deal if you had access to it with me? Let me know. All right. So look, have a great night tonight. Let's get after it, and boom.